My daughter got married, and I kept quiet about having inherited a fortune from her grandmother. Not out of fear, but out of sheer instinct. I knew her husband's smile too well, and I wasn't wrong. Just a few days later, the two of them showed up with a lawyer, a black briefcase, and an ambition you could practically taste in the air. They thought they were coming to fix some papers. They had no idea who they were messing with. If this story touches your heart, subscribe to the channel. Every day, I share a real story that might mirror your own. Let me know in the comments where you're listening from. My name is Elias Carver Vance. I'm 81 years old, but don't get it twisted. 81 doesn't mean I'm an idiot. I live alone in an apartment in the historic West End, right here in Atlanta, Georgia. For 50 years, I've been reading contracts, negotiating with banks, and burying people who underestimated me. When the doorbell rang that morning, 3 times in a row, I already knew who it was. I'd been waiting for them for a week, ever since the wedding of my daughter, Savannah, where she danced with that man, Damon. And I stood in a corner, watching her laugh with a sound I didn't recognize, a nervous, fake laugh. I walked to the door slowly, not because my legs ached, but because I wanted them to wait. I wanted them to know that I control my home, my time, my life. I opened it, and there they were, all 3. Savannah was in a black dress that looked like funeral attire. Damon had his hands in his pockets, and that used car salesman's smile. Beside him was a skinny guy in a cheap gray suit, carrying a worn leather brief. I could smell the desperation from the doorway. "Morning, Mr. Vance," Damon said. I didn't answer. I looked at them, one by one, slowly, letting the silence turn awkward. Savannah wouldn't meet my eyes. That told me everything I needed to know. Damon took a step forward and pushed the door open with his hand, firm, without waiting for me to invite him in. He just walked right in, as if it were his own place. I thought, so that's how we're going to play this. I let all 3 pass and closed the door behind them with a sharp click that made the skinny guy jump. Damon walked straight to my dining room table as if he knew it by heart. Maybe he did. Maybe Savannah had told him where I keep the important papers, where the safe is. It's not a safe, where everything is. He stopped in front of the table, running his fingers along the wooden edge, measuring, recognizing conquered territory. The man in the gray suit introduced himself. "Calvin Fry, attorney," he said in a voice that tried to sound important, but only sounded rehearsed. He extended his hand. I shook it. Cold, clammy, like touching a dead fish. His eyes darted away as he gripped my hand. A coward. "Have a seat, Mr. Vance," Damon said, gesturing to my own chair. As if he lived here, as if I were the guest. I stayed standing, firm. "I prefer to stand," I said. Damon smiled, that smile. The same one he used at the wedding. When he shook my hand and told me, "I'm going to take good care of your daughter." The same one that made me grit my teeth and think, this son of a gun is lying to me. And now, watching how he moved in my house, I knew I hadn't been wrong. Calvin opened the briefcase and pulled out a thick black folder stuffed with documents. He placed it on the table with a dull, theatrical thud, like a bomb. "Mr. Vance," Damon said, still standing, still wearing that grin. "We need to discuss important matters, things that affect the whole family." Family? That word sounded like an insult. I looked at Savannah. She was sitting on the sofa, her hands resting on her knees, her wedding ring catching the light from the window. I'm sure she hadn't taken that ring off, not even to sleep. "What matters?" I asked, though I already knew. I knew from the day I first saw Damon, 6 months ago, when he appeared out of nowhere in my daughter's life, and in 2 weeks they were talking about marriage. I kept quiet then, but I was watchful. I was always watchful. Damon pushed the folder toward me. "Open it," he said. I opened it slowly. I calmly turned the pages, reading every line, every word. The deed to my house, bank statements, property titles for the land. Auntie Loretta left me 2 months ago. Documents only I should possess. Documents that someone had copied, investigated, and gathered. "Where did you get these?" I asked, without looking up. Silence. Then Calvin spoke. "They are public records, Mr. Vance. Anyone can access them." "A lie. Some of those papers are not public." "Someone entered my home. Someone went through my things." I looked up and faced Savannah. She still wouldn't look at me, and that's when I knew. It was her. "What do you want?" I asked directly, without ceremony, refusing to give them the pleasure of playing games any longer. Damon sat down in the chair opposite me, settling in as if he were in his office. He crossed his legs, adjusted his shirt collar. All calculated, all rehearsed. "We want to help you, Mr. Vance. You're at an age where managing so many properties, so many accounts, is complicated. You might make mistakes. You might forget things. We can take care of it." The way he said it, with that soft, condescending tone, as if speaking to a child. I laughed. A short, dry, humorless sound. "Mistakes?" I said. "I've been managing my affairs for 60 years. 60 years negotiating with banks that tried to cheat me. 60 years paying taxes down to the penny. I've never had a problem. I've never forgotten anything. And now, you tell me I need help?" Calvin leaned forward with that expression of fake concern they must teach in law school. "Mr. Vance, with all due respect, age is age. We all get there. It's normal. There's no shame in admitting you need support." I stared at him, directly in the eyes. "I have no shame in anything, but you two should." It was then I heard slow, careful footsteps in the hallway. Ms. Eleanor and Mr. Douglas, my neighbors, my witnesses, always watchful, always there when something smells wrong. They stood at the doorway, looking in. Damon noticed, turning around, annoyed. "This is a private matter," he told them. Ms. Eleanor didn't move. "Elias is our friend," she said, "and this is his house. If he wants us to stay, we stay." I didn't say anything, but I didn't ask them to leave either. Damon clenched his jaw. Calvin nervously snapped his briefcase shut, and I thought, perfect. Let them see. Let them hear. Let them witness what these vultures are trying to pull. That's when I saw something in Damon's eyes that chilled my blood. It wasn't just ambition. It wasn't just the look of a man who wants money. It was hate. Deep, visceral, personal hate. The kind of hate that simmers for years. The kind of hate that doesn't come from a disagreement or an argument. It was hate from the roots, the kind that springs from old, unhealed wounds. As if I had done something terrible to him, something unforgivable. As if he knew me from before, but I didn't know him. I had never seen him until 6 months ago, when he appeared out of nowhere in my daughter's life. Why did he hate me like that? It made no sense. Unless there was something I didn't know. Something he did know. Something buried in my past that I had forgotten or never knew at all. And that thought made me feel something I hadn't felt in years. Dangerous, sharp, cold curiosity. The curiosity of a hunter who senses something hidden in the woods, something that needs to be uncovered. I wanted to know. I needed to know what was really going on, because a man doesn't look at another man like that for no reason. And I was going to find that reason, even if it took me to hell. "Savannah," I said, without taking my eyes off Damon. "You know what they're doing?" She finally looked up. Her eyes were red and swollen. She had been crying. "Dad," she said, her voice cracking, "it's for the best. Believe me, it's for everyone's best. For everyone's best." That phrase hurt me more than any insult because it meant she believed, or wanted to believe, that what they were doing was right. That robbing me, humiliating me, and having me declared incompetent was for my own good. Damon placed a hand on her shoulder, a protective, possessive gesture. "Savannah agrees, Mr. Vance. We both agree. This is a simple process. Quick. Painless." I smiled, a humorless grin. "Painless?" I repeated. "Right up." The three of them left. Shortly after, Damon calmly picked up the folder, as if he had all the time in the world. Calvin grabbed his briefcase, snapping it shut with that metallic click that sounded like a threat. And Savannah got up like a shadow, without saying another word, without looking at me, following them, like a dog follows its master. I closed the door behind them. The sound echoed in the empty apartment. I stood there, my hand still on the knob, feeling the silence fill my house once more. But it was a different silence, heavier, denser, as if they had left something in the air, something dirty, something threatening. Ms. Eleanor and Mr. Douglas came in slowly. "Elias," she said, her voice trembling. "What was that? What are they trying to do?" I didn't answer right away. I stood staring at the table, at the papers they had left, the black folder, the fingerprints they'd left on my life. And then, for the first time in a long time, I felt something I had forgotten. The thrill of battle. The tingle in my veins, the adrenaline, the certainty that this wasn't over. Because that's what this was. A battle. And they thought they'd already won. They thought I was an old man, easy to frighten, easy to manipulate, easy to destroy. They didn't know who they were messing with, but they were about to find out, one by one. They returned the next day, this time without knocking. I heard the key in the lock while I was in the kitchen making coffee. My key, the one I gave Savannah years ago when her mother died. And she was afraid something would happen to me, and no one would be able to get in and help. The door opened. The three of them walked in as if they owned the place. I left the coffee on the stove and walked into the living room. Damon was already seated. Calvin was pulling out papers. Savannah was standing by the window, looking out at the street. "Good morning," I said. Damon smiled. "Good morning, Mr. Vance. We thought it best to start early." I poured my coffee slowly, very slowly. I took a sip. "I don't recall inviting you," I said. Damon shrugged. "We're family. We don't need an invitation." Damon opened the folder again and began reading aloud. But this time he did it differently. He did it as if I were slow, as if I wouldn't understand. "It states here," he began, tracing each word with his finger, slowly, exaggeratedly, slowly, "that Elias Carver Vance transfers the property located at 234 Martin Street to his daughter, Savannah Vance." He paused, looked at me. "Do you understand what this says, Mr. Vance?" I took another sip of coffee. "I understand perfectly," I said. "What I don't understand is Why you think I'm going to sign it?" Damon smiled again. That smile I wanted to punch off his face. "Because it's the right thing to do, Mr. Vance. Because it's what's best for you." Calvin pulled out a small notebook and a pen. "Mr. Vance," he said, raising his voice as if I were deaf, "do you know what day it is today?" I looked at him without blinking. "Wednesday, October 24th, I said. Calvin wrote something down. "And do you know how old you are?" 81. "I turn 82 in January." More notes. "Do you remember what you ate for dinner last night?" I chuckled, a short, dry laugh. "Lentil soup with smoked sausage. I made it myself, using a recipe my mother taught me when I was 20. Want me to list the ingredients?" Calvin didn't answer. He kept writing, and I knew exactly what he was doing. He was building a profile, looking for any hesitation, any doubt, any mistake to use against me. Savannah turned from the window. Her eyes avoided mine again. "Dad?" she said, and her voice sounded tired, defeated, as if she had lost an internal war before even arriving. "It really is for your own good. You can't take care of all this alone anymore. It's too much responsibility. We just want to help you." I looked at her, really looked at her. My daughter, the girl I raised alone after her mother died. The girl who cried in my arms during thunderstorms. The girl who used to tell me, "You're the strongest man in the world, Daddy." Where was that girl now? What had that man done to turn her into this? "Help me?" I said, and my voice came out harder than I intended. "Help me by robbing me? Help me by declaring me incompetent? Help me by taking everything I worked 60 years for?" She looked down. Tears streamed down her cheeks, but she didn't defend me. "No," she whispered. "No, Dad, you're wrong." She just cried. And that hurt more than any insult. "It's not stealing, Dad," she whispered, "and it's protecting what's ours. Ours, not mine." As if I were already dead. As if my life no longer counted. As if I were just an obstacle between them and Auntie Loretta's money. I tried to speak. "I paid all of this year. I have all the receipts. My accounts are in order. There are no—" Damon interrupted me, raising his hand the way you do to a child. "Mr. Vance, with all due respect, there are irregularities. Duplicate payments. Repeated calls to the bank. Forgetfulness." I clenched my fists. "What duplicate payments?" Damon pulled out a piece of paper. "Here. The electric bill from August was paid twice." I remembered that. I paid the first time at the bank, but the system didn't register it. I got another notice. I paid again to avoid a cutoff. They later refunded the money. Everything was sorted. But Damon was using it. He was twisting it to make me look like a confused old man. The room felt smaller and smaller, more suffocating, as if the walls were closing in. We were 4 people, but I felt surrounded, cornered. For just a second, I thought of when Savannah was 10. She broke her arm playing at school. I dropped everything. I raced to the hospital. I stayed with her all night. "Don't leave me, Daddy," she told me, holding my hand with her good one. "Never," I promised her. And now, she was here, leaving me, allowing these 2 vultures to tear me apart. And she said nothing, did nothing. She just looked at the floor. Damon kept attacking. "We also detected that Mr. Vance has been missing medical appointments." I looked at him. "What appointments?" Calvin checked his notebook. "Last week. Cardiology checkup. He didn't attend." I laughed again. "That appointment, I canceled it. I called the office 2 days in advance because I had to go to the bank to sign some papers. They gave me another date." Damon smiled. Do you have proof of that call? I didn't. Who keeps proof of phone calls? But I realized what he was doing. He didn't care about the truth. He cared about building a case that looked solid, a case that would convince a judge that I could no longer take care of myself. Calvin closed his notebook with a dry snap. "Mr. Vance," he said, with that lawyer's voice I've learned to hate in my life, "what we are trying to do here is spare you a judicial process. If you sign voluntarily, everything stays between us. Private, discreet. No one has to know anything. But if you force us to go the legal route, believe me, it will be public. Your neighbors will know, your friends will know, it will be humiliating, and in the end, the result will be exactly the same." That was a direct, clear threat. Sign, or we destroy you. Sign, or we expose you. Sign, or we take away even your dignity. Someone knocked on the door. 3 strong raps. Ms. Eleanor walked in without waiting for an answer. She carried a tray with coffee and some shortbread cookies she makes herself. "Good morning," she said, with that cheerful voice she uses when she knows something is wrong. "I brought you coffee." Damon immediately stood up. "That's not necessary, ma'am. We're in the middle of a private meeting." Ms. Eleanor completely ignored him. She placed the tray on the table right on top of Calvin's papers. "I always bring Elias coffee at this hour every day, for 20 years, and today won't be any different." Damon clenched his jaw. Calvin annoyedly gathered his papers, like a child whose toy has been snatched. Ms. Eleanor looked me in the eyes. "You okay, Elias?" I nodded. "I'm fine, Eleanor. Thank you." She looked at Damon, then Calvin, then Savannah, and in her gaze was something that made me feel less alone. There was understanding. There was support. There was fury. "If you need anything," she told me, "I'll be next door. Anything." And she left slowly, leaving the door ajar so she could listen, so she could bear witness. Damon watched her go with an expression of pure hatred. And I thought, good, be annoyed. Know that I'm not alone, that there are people who look out for me, people who won't let you do this without a fight. After Ms. Eleanor left, the silence was dense, heavy, almost tangible, as if you could cut it with a knife. Damon was looking at me with those eyes full of hate, a hate he no longer tried to conceal. Calvin nervously checked his watch, restless, as if he had something better to do, but didn't dare leave without Damon's order. And Savannah. Savannah was still standing by the window, arms crossed, staring out at the street, saying nothing, doing nothing, allowing everything, as if it wasn't her father being attacked, as if I were a stranger. I took a sip of the coffee. It was cold now, and bitter, like everything else that morning. I thought about what my mother, Auntie Loretta, told me before she died. It was in the hospital, 3 days before she closed her eyes for the last time. "Elias," she told me, gripping my hand with a strength that didn't seem possible in someone so frail. "Never trust someone who smiles too much. Those people are hiding something. And never underestimate someone who hates you for no apparent reason, because that reason exists. It always exists. You just don't know it yet." I didn't understand then. I thought they were the ravings of a dying woman. But now I understood. Damon hated me with a hatred that went beyond ambition or greed. And I needed to find out why, but I said nothing. Not yet. I let them think that they had me cornered. I let them think they were winning, because a good hunter knows when to strike, and that moment hadn't arrived yet. They left around noon, all 3 of them. Damon with his shark smile, Calvin with his briefcase full of lies, and Savannah. Savannah, not looking at me. I stayed seated in the living room, staring at the closed door, listening to their footsteps fade down the hall. I waited 10 minutes. 15. Then I went out to the corridor. Savannah was there, alone, sitting on the building's steps, her head in her hands. Damon and Calvin had already gone. "Savannah," I said. She looked up, startled. Her eyes were red, her face streaked with the tears. "Dad," she said, her voice broken. "We need to talk," I said. "Just you and me." She looked towards the street as if searching for Damon. "I can't," she said. "Oh, he'll be back in half an hour." As if she needed permission to speak to her own father. I sat down next to her on the stairs, slowly. My knees creaked. She instinctively pulled away slightly, as if I might hurt her. That hurt more than anything Damon had said. "Savannah," I said, "look at me." She didn't. She kept staring at the ground, her hands trembling in her lap. "What made you believe I abandoned you? What made you think I didn't give you anything?" She took a shaky, deep breath. "Dad, you never gave me anything easy. Never." Those words hit me like a punch. "Easy?" I repeated. "What does that mean?" She turned then, and in her eyes was something I hadn't seen before. Old, deep resentment. "It means I always had to ask you for everything, that you never offered me anything on your own, that I was always the one who had to beg." I stayed silent, processing, trying to understand. "Savannah," I said slowly, "your mother died when you were 7. I raised you alone. I worked double shifts at the factory so you could go to private school. I paid for your college. I bought you your first car." "That doesn't count," she cut in, wiping her tears with the back of her hand. "Yes, Dad, but always with that look of sacrifice. As if everything you gave me was a burden to you, as if I was a burden." That broke me, because maybe she was right. Maybe I had been so hard on myself, so demanding, that she only saw the exhaustion, not the love, not the effort, just the exhaustion. I tried to touch her hand. She pulled it away. "Damon made me see," she said, her voice trembling, "that you always controlled me, that you never let me make my own decisions, that you always wanted me to do what you wanted." I felt rage rise in my throat. Of course, Damon had put those ideas in her head. Damon had convinced her that I was the villain. "Savannah," I said, trying to stay calm, "I raised you to be strong, to depend on no one, so you wouldn't be used. And now, that man—" She shot up abruptly. "That man is my husband," she said, her voice loud, defensive. "And he loves me. He truly loves me, not like you, who only loved me when I did what you wanted." The building door opened. Damon appeared, as if he had been waiting for the exact moment to interrupt. "Savannah," he said with that controlled, soft voice, "I was looking for you." She ran to him, literally ran, like a scared child seeking protection. Damon embraced her, looked over her shoulder at me, and smiled. A triumphant, victorious smile, as if saying, "She's mine. She's not yours anymore." I slowly stood up, feeling every muscle in my body protest. "Damon," I said, "can we talk for a moment?" He shook his head. "Not now, Mr. Vance. Savannah is tired. She needs to rest." And he led her away, just like that. And she let him, without looking back. I went back to my apartment, closed the door, sat on the sofa, and for the first time in years, I felt something close to despair. Because I had lost my daughter. Not to death, not to distance, but to the words of a man who had convinced her that I was her enemy. But I didn't have much time for self-pity, because the next day, the three of them returned. And this time, Damon brought something new, something that chilled my blood. He sat across from me, opened the folder, and pulled out a paper. "Mr. Vance," he said, "let's talk about Auntie Loretta's inheritance, the one you hid." The world stopped. I stared at him without blinking. "What inheritance?" I said, though my voice sounded false even to me. Damon smiled. "The inheritance you received 2 months ago. The properties, the bank accounts, the land outside of town." I said nothing. I couldn't say anything, because he was right. My mother had died 2 months ago and left me everything. Everything she had saved for years. But I hadn't told anyone, not even Savannah, because something, an instinct, a voice in my head, told me to wait, to be quiet, to watch. And now I understood why. Because Damon knew. But how? I looked at Savannah. She seemed surprised, too. "Dad?" she asked, confused. "Is that true? Auntie Loretta left you an inheritance?" I didn't answer. I kept looking at Damon. "How do you know?" I asked. Damon leaned back in his chair, crossing his legs, completely relaxed. "I know a lot of things, Mr. Vance. I know your mother owned 3 properties downtown. I know she had accounts at 2 different banks. I know she left important documents in a metal box that you keep in your bedroom." That last part hit me like a lightning bolt. No one knew about that box. No one but me and my mother. That meant someone had been inside my house. They had gone through my things. They had been spying. Calvin opened another folder. This one was thicker, full of papers. He spread them out on the table like a deck of cards, bank documents, property titles, statements, all with my name, all real, all private. "Where did you get all this?" I asked, and this time my voice came out hard, sharp. Calvin smiled. "Reliable sources," he said. I stood up abruptly. The chair crashed backward with a loud bang. "You entered my home. You went through my things without permission." Damon didn't flinch. "No, Mr. Vance. We didn't enter your home. We just investigated, as any responsible family would do before making important decisions." A lie. Someone had entered. Someone had stolen those documents. And I had an idea who. I looked at Savannah. Her eyes were glued to the papers, her mouth slightly open, processing. "Savannah," I said, "you gave Damon the key to my house." Silence. A terrible, heavy silence. She didn't answer. She didn't look at me, but she didn't deny it either. Damon spoke for her. "Savannah just wants to protect you, Mr. Vance. She wants to ensure you are well cared for. That's why she gave us access to verify that everything was in order." Access. As if I were a property that needed inspection. As if my life, my home, my things were in inventory they had the right to review. "We know everything, Mr. Vance," Damon said, leaning forward. "Everything. And now you have 2 choices. Cooperate, or this gets ugly." I stood there looking at him. And in that moment, I understood something fundamental. This wasn't improvised. This hadn't started a week ago. This had started months ago, perhaps from the day Damon met Savannah. Maybe even before that. He had investigated. He had planned. He had waited for the exact moment. The wedding was just the closing of the deal. And I, fool that I was, had been blind, believing he was just an opportunist. But no, it was much worse. He was someone with a plan, someone with information, Someone who had been studying me like a predator studies its prey. And now he was ready to attack. But what Damon didn't know was that I had been preparing too, quietly, silently, waiting. Damon pulled out his phone and dialed a number. "You can come up now, doctor," he said. I looked at him, confused. "What doctor?" Damon smiled, that smile that was getting old fast. "Mr. Vance, we brought someone who wants to meet you, someone who will help us resolve this situation in the best way." I heard footsteps in the hall, slow, heavy steps. The door opened. A man in his 50s walked in. A dark blue suit, a black leather briefcase, thick glasses. "Dr. Jeffrey Thorne," he introduced himself, extending his hand. "Psychiatrist." I didn't shake his hand. I looked him up and down. "I didn't request a psychiatrist." The doctor smiled condescendingly. "You don't have to request one, Mr. Vance. Your family requested it for you." Calvin pulled a folded paper from his jacket pocket. He unfolded it carefully, almost ceremoniously. "Mr. Vance," he said, "we have a preliminary court order. The judge authorized a home psychiatric evaluation due to the concerns expressed by your daughter." I felt the rage rising, but I contained it. I swallowed it. "A court order," I said slowly, articulating every word. "Based on what?" Calvin pointed to the papers on the table. "Based on testimonies from neighbors, medical staff, and close family members, indicating progressive cognitive decline." I looked at Savannah. Her eyes were fixed on the floor. "Did you sign this?" She nodded, barely a movement of the head, but she did it. And that felt like a knife being plunged into my chest. Dr. Thorne sat across from me, pulled out a notebook and a pen, and crossed his legs as if we were in his private office. "Mr. Vance," he began, with that soft voice used by those who think you're an idiot, "I'm going to ask you some simple questions, just to assess your current state." I stared at him. "Go ahead," he smiled. "What day is today?" "Thursday, October 25th, 2024. He wrote it down. "Where are we?" "In my apartment. 312 West End Avenue, Apartment B, Atlanta, Georgia." More notes. "Who is the President of the United States?" I answered, without hesitation, without pause. He continued with more questions, all designed to detect dementia, confusion, memory loss. I answered each one with surgical precision. No errors. The doctor changed tactics. "Mr. Vance, can you tell me what you had for dinner last night?" "Lentil soup with smoked sausage, whole wheat bread, a glass of 2020 Rioja red wine." The doctor frowned. "And 3 days ago?" "Potato. Omelet, I made it myself. 4 eggs. 3 medium potatoes. Salt, olive oil. I ate it with a tomato and onion salad." Silence. The doctor looked at Damon. Damon was looking at the floor, his jaw tight. I continued. "If you want, I can tell you what I ate a week ago, a month ago, or a year ago. I have a good memory, doctor. Always have. And still do." The doctor closed his notebook. "That's not enough to rule out cognitive decline. There are other indicators." Calvin intervened. "Mr. Vance, the doctor is here to help you." I laughed. A dry laugh. "Help me by bringing a bought and paid for psychiatrist to declare me mentally unfit?" Calvin was offended, or pretended to be. "He is not a bought and paid for psychiatrist, Mr. Vance. He is a professional with 30 years of experience." I looked him straight in the eye. Article 224 of the Civil Code. Incapacity proceedings. It requires a formal application to the court, a hearing with the allegedly incompetent person, and a report from 2 independent medical specialists appointed by the judge, not by the family. "Want me to continue?" Silence. Calvin turned pale. Damon stopped smiling. "You think I don't know the law?" I've been reading contracts for 60 years. I've buried better lawyers than you. And Damon jumped up. Stop it! His voice came out loud, furious. For the first time since he arrived, he lost his composure. Stop playing games, old man. You are going to sign those papers now. Savannah jumped. Damon, please. He cut her off, grabbing her arm. Hard. Too hard. I saw her wince in pain. Shut up, Damon told her without looking. And I saw something in my daughter's eyes that chilled my blood. Fear. She was as afraid of him. How long had it been like this? How many times had he grabbed her like that? How many times had he silenced her? I stood up slowly. Let go of my daughter. Damon released her, but not because I asked him to, but because he realized he had revealed something. I think we need a recess, Dr. Thorne said nervously, packing up his things. This is getting out of hand. I looked at him. You are not going anywhere, Doctor. Stay, because this is about to get interesting. I walked towards my bedroom. Damon and Calvin exchanged glances. He's going to get the documents, Damon said, smiling again. He's going to cooperate. I heard that from the hallway and smiled. Idiots. I opened the closet, pulled out a shoebox, and returned to the living room. Here are the documents you need to see, I said, putting the box on the table. Damon leaned in, eager. Calvin, too. Savannah didn't move. I opened the box, and there they were. But, they weren't property documents. They were photographs. High-resolution color photos. Damon looked at them, and all the blood drained from his face. They were photos of him entering my building on a Tuesday afternoon 3 weeks ago when I was at the doctor's. Damon with a key in his hand. Damon opening my door. Damon inside my house, going through drawers, photographing documents, emptying my mail. Breaking and entering on, I said slowly. Section 189 of the Penal Code, 6 months to 2 years in prison. I put another photo on the table. Damon talking to Stephen Ruiz, the market owner, handing him an envelope. Witness tampering. Section 243. Up to 4 years. More photos. Damon with Lydia, with Julian, all receiving money. Where did you get those photos? Damon asked, his voice trembling. I smiled. For the first time in days I truly smiled. Hidden cameras. 3 of them. 1 in the hallway, 1 in my living room, 1 in my bedroom. Installed 2 months ago, when my mother warned me before she died to be careful of new people in my life. A lie. My mother hadn't warned me of anything, but I had suspected Damon from the start, and I decided to protect myself. I have everything recorded, Damon. Everything. Every time you entered. Every conversation. Every bribe. I pulled a flash drive from my pocket, and I have copies in 3 different places with instructions to send them to the police if anything happens to me. Calvin slammed his briefcase shut. This is a serious accusation, Mr. Vance. I hope you have real proof. I connected the flash drive to my laptop. I opened it. I played a video. The image was clear. Damon in my living room, going through papers, photographing them with his cell phone. Clean audio. Here's everything we need, Damon's voice said in the video. With this, we can have him declared incompetent in 2 weeks. Calvin's voice replied on speakerphone. Perfect. Build the profile. I'll handle the judge. I paused the video. I looked at Calvin. Enough proof, counselor? Calvin stood up. I didn't know that. Shut up. My voice came out cold and hard. And get out of my house, now. Dr. Thorne was already gone. Calvin scurried out after him, almost running. 3 of us remained. Me, Damon, and Savannah. She was sitting on the trembling, her hands covering her face. Damon was still standing, staring at the photos on the table. "How long have you been planning this?" I asked. Damon didn't answer. "Months? Maybe years, right?" Silence. "It's not just about the money. I saw you. I saw how you look at me with hate. Real, personal hate." I reached into the document folder I had brought from my room. Among the investigator's papers was an old photo he had found in the orphanage records. I pulled it out. It was blurry. A young woman in her 20s, smiling at the camera. On the back, it read, Naomi Rivers, 1963. "Who is Naomi Rivers, Damon?" He slowly looked up, and in his eyes, I saw something I hadn't seen before. It wasn't just hate, it was pain. Old, deep pain. "How do you know that name?" Damon whispered. He looked at the photos on the table. The photos of him entering my house, the photos of him bribing witnesses. All the color had left his face. He was no longer the confident man who had walked into my apartment with a shark smile. He was a cornered man. "This doesn't prove anything," he said, but his voice trembled. I laughed, a short, dry laugh. "It doesn't prove anything, Damon? I have recordings of you inside my house, going through my drawers, photographing private documents. I have videos of you paying Stephen, Lydia, Julian, for everything is recorded. Everything is dated. Everything is timed." Calvin tried to intervene. "Mr. Vance, this can be explained." I cut him off. "Shut up, your counselor. I've heard enough of your lies." I connected the flash drive to my laptop. I played another video. This one was different. It was a clear, clean audio recording. Damon's voice on the phone. "Calvin, I need you to prepare the papers. Declaration of incapacity, transfer of assets, everything. We have 2 weeks to do it before the old man suspects anything." Calvin's voice replied, "Are you sure it's going to work, Damon? He's 81. No one will doubt he's senile. I already have witnesses. I already have a doctor. I just need you to handle the legal part." I paused the recording. I looked at Calvin. "Still want to say you didn't know anything?" Calvin closed his briefcase, stood up. "I have nothing more to say." And he left quickly, like a rat abandoning a sinking ship. Damon remained standing, breathing hard, his hands clenched into fists. "I did what I had to do," he said. His voice was low, dangerous. "What you had to do, rob me? Declare me mentally unfit?" He looked me straight in the eyes. "You hid the inheritance. You kept quiet about what your mother left you. And I'm the bad guy?" I didn't deny it. "Yes, I kept quiet because something about you didn't sit right with me from the beginning, and I was right." Damon took a step toward me. "Do you know what it's like to have nothing? Do you know what it's like to see people like you have properties, bank accounts, everything, while others have to fight for crumbs?" There was the crack, the rage that wasn't just about money. It was something deeper, more personal. "People like me?" I repeated. "What does that mean, Damon?" He laughed, a bitter sound. "It means you were born with a name, with family, with advantages, and I had none of that." I stood up slowly, firm. "I worked 60 years for what I have. My mother was tough, strict. She didn't give me anything easy." Damon shook his head. "Lies? They all say the same thing. But you were born with advantages I never had." Savannah, who had been silent all this time, finally spoke. "Damon, what are you talking about? What does my dad have to do with you?" Damon turned to her, and in his eyes was something I hadn't seen before. Old, buried pain. "Everything," he said. Your father has everything to do with it. I walked toward him. Explain yourself. Damon clenched his jaw. Why? So you can tell me I'm crazy? So you can say I'm making things up? I shook my head. No? So I can understand why you hate me so much. Because this isn't just about money. I saw how you look at me with real personal hatred. Damon was quiet, breathing hard. Then he said something that made my stomach drop. Because people like you always had everything easy. They never had to wonder why they weren't enough, why they weren't wanted, why they had to grow up alone. Those words fell like stones, because I understood. This had to do with abandonment, with rejection, with something that happened a long time ago. Damon, I said, trying to stay calm, I don't know what happened to you, but I had nothing to do with it. Damon looked at me with contempt. No? Are you sure? I didn't answer, because I wasn't sure. There was something in his tone that made me doubt. What are you trying to say? I asked. Damon opened his mouth, then closed it, as if fighting with himself, as if he wanted to say something but didn't dare. Savannah got up from the sofa. Damon, if there's something you need to say it now. He looked at her, and for a moment I saw something like guilt on his face. I can't, he said. Not yet. And he walked toward the door. You're not leaving until you tell me what's going on, I said. Damon stopped, his hand on the doorknob. You want to know what's going on? Ask your mother. Ask Auntie Loretta what she did 60 years ago. I froze. My mother is dead. Damon turned. I know. Convenient, isn't it? That she died before she could answer for what she did. I walked toward him. What did my mother do? Damon looked at me with eyes full of rage. She destroyed lives. That's what she did. And you benefited from it without even knowing. Those words hit me like a punch. Because my mother had been tough. She had been strict. But destroying lives? What was he talking about? Damon, if you know something, tell me now. He shook his head. No? First, I'm going to make sure it's true. And when I do, you're going to have to face what your family did. He opened the door. Savannah took a step toward him. Damon, don't leave like this. He looked at her, and in his gaze was something that made me feel fear. Not for me, but for her. Savannah, if you know what's good for you, you stay with your father for now. And he left. The door closed with a dry bang, and for the first time in this war, Savannah didn't follow him. She stood there, in the middle of my living room, staring at the closed door. Dad, she said, her voice trembling, what did Auntie Loretta do? I didn't answer right away, because I didn't know. My mother had been many things. Tough, controlling, obsessed with status and reputation. But destroying lives? What had she done? I sat down on the sofa slowly, feeling the weight of 81 years crash down on me all at once. Savannah sat next to me. Dad, are you okay? I shook my head. I don't know, honey. I don't know. We sat in silence, a heavy silence, full of unanswered questions, full of fear of what was to come. Because something told me that what Damon had insinuated was only the beginning, that the truth, when it came out, would be worse than I could ever imagine. Ms. Eleanor appeared at the door. She hadn't knocked. She just walked in, as she always did when she knew something was wrong. Elias, I saw the young man leave. Are you okay? I nodded. I'm fine, Eleanor. Thank you. She looked at the photos on the table, the peers, the mess of the battle that had just ended. Do you need anything? I shook my head. I just need to think. She nodded. She left slowly, and Savannah and I remained there, both in silence, processing, trying to understand what had just happened, and why, after all this, I had the feeling that the worst had not yet arrived. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the living room, looking at the photos, the evidence against Damon, and thinking about what he had said. Ask your mother what she did 60 years ago. What had she done? What secret had she kept? What lie had I lived without knowing? I looked at the clock. It was 3 in the morning. Savannah was asleep in my room. I could hear her calm breathing from the living room. For the first time in days she was at peace. But I wasn't. I was more restless than ever, because I knew that tomorrow I would have to start looking for answers. I would have to unearth the past. I would have to face truths I might rather not know. But I had no choice. Damon had opened a door, and now I had to cross it, even if hell was on the other side. I woke up with the sun streaming through the window. I had fallen asleep on the sofa. My neck hurt. My back hurt, too. I heard noises in the kitchen. Savannah was there, making coffee. When she saw me, she smiled. A sad smile, but a smile nonetheless. Good morning, Dad. I got up slowly. Good morning, honey. We sat at the table. She put down 2 cups of coffee, toast, butter, like when she was a little girl, and we had Sunday breakfast together. Did you sleep well? I asked. She shook her head. Not much, but better than at home. Home. She still called the apartment she shared with Damon home. Savannah, I said, you don't have to go back there. She looked at me. I know. And we sat in silence for a while, drinking coffee, listening to the sounds of the morning, the traffic outside, the birds. Life continuing as if nothing had happened. But everything had happened. Everything had changed. Dad, Savannah finally said, I need to tell you something. I put my cup down on the table. Tell me? She took a deep breath. Damon isn't who you think he is. I waited. He never hit me, she continued. He never raised a hand to me, but she trailed off. I watched her eyes fill with tears. But he controlled me all the time. And then she began to tell her story. And with every word, I felt the rage grow inside me. She told me how Damon checked her phone every night, how he questioned her about who she had talked to, what she had said, why she had taken so long to reply. She told me how he isolated her from her friends, how he told her I was a bad father, that I had never loved her, that only he understood her. He convinced me I was crazy, Savannah said, wiping her tears. He convinced me that without him, I was nothing, that no one else would want me. I wanted to get it up. I wanted to go find Damon but I couldn't do that. Not like this. Why didn't you tell me anything? I asked. Savannah looked at me. Because I believed him. I believed him when he told me you were the problem. I took her hand. I'm sorry, honey. I'm sorry I didn't realize. She shook her head. It's not your fault, Dad. He's very good at what he does. He's so good that even I didn't realize it until yesterday, until I saw the photos, the proof, and understood that it was all a lie. We stayed like that for a while, in silence, processing. Are you afraid of him? I asked. Savannah nodded. Yes, I'm afraid of what he might do, what he might say. I squeezed her hand. I won't let him hurt you, I promise. She smiled sadly. How are you going to protect me? He has something against you, something to do with Auntie Loretta. I nodded. I know, and I'm going to find out what it is. I got up and went to my room. I pulled out a folder I had stored, The folder with the documents the investigator had given me 3 months ago when I decided to look into Damon. I returned to the living room and placed the folder on the table. "What's that?" Savannah asked. "Information on Damon," I said. "I got it months ago when something told me he wasn't who he said he was." I opened the folder. Inside were documents, certificates, photos. One photo, in particular, caught my attention when the investigator brought it to me. A young woman smiling. The investigator had found it in the orphanage records. Naomi Rivers, biological mother of Damon, read the back. "His full name isn't Damon Baruti Lozano," I said. "It's just Damon Baruti." Savannah looked at me, confused. "What?" I pulled out a paper. A birth certificate. Lozano isn't his birth last name. It's the last name of the family who adopted him. Savannah took the paper and read it. Damon Baruti, born March 12, 1964. Mother, Naomi Rivers. Father, unknown. She looked at me on, "He was adopted?" I nodded. "At 12 years old, by a family named Lozano, but he never legally changed his last name. He just used it." Savannah frowned. "Why would he lie about that?" I shook my head. "I don't know, but there's more." I pulled out another document. He spent the first 12 years of his life in an orphanage, St. Jude's Children's Home, right here in Atlanta. Savannah turned pale. An orphanage? But he told me he grew up with his mother. I nodded. He lied. His mother left him there when he was 12 and disappeared. "Disappeared?" Savannah asked. "To where?" I pulled out more papers. "No one knows." Naomi Rivers left Damon at the orphanage in July 1976 and never returned. Never visited him. She just left. Savannah covered her mouth with her hands. "Oh my God." 2 months later, I continued, the Lozano family adopted him. A rich family, a good name. They gave him an education, college, everything. But Damon was never happy. The investigators spoke to people who knew him. They say he was always distant, resentful, as if he carried something heavy. Savannah looked at me. "And his mother?" I shook my head. "She vanished, as if the earth had swallowed her." Savannah stared at the papers. Why would he lie to me about all of this? Why invent a life he didn't have? I sat down next to her. "I don't know, honey, but I'm going to find out. I'm going to find Naomi Rivers. And I'm going to discover what happened 60 years ago." Savannah looked at me, fear in her eyes. "Dad, what if what Damon said is true? What if Auntie Loretta did something terrible?" I took a deep breath. "Then I'll face it. And I'll do whatever I have to do to fix it." Savannah nodded. "Can I stay here? I don't want to go back to that apartment." I took her hand. "Stay as long as you need. This is your home. It always was." That afternoon, Savannah went to her apartment to get clothes. I told her to go with Ms. Eleanor, not alone. She agreed. While they were out, I called a number I had saved, a private investigator. The best, Marcus Hayes. I had worked with him years ago on a complicated case. If anyone could find Naomi Rivers, it was him. "Mr. Hayes, Ron," I said when he answered, "and it's Elias Vance. I need your help." We arranged to meet the next day. I briefly explained what I needed. He didn't ask questions. He just said, "I'll be there tomorrow at 9. And he hung up. I liked that about him. He didn't waste time. Savannah returned 2 hours later. She carried a suitcase and a look that made me fear the worst. "What happened?" I asked. She dropped the suitcase on the floor. Damon was there. I jumped up. "Did he do anything to you?" She shook her head. "No, but he said things to me." She sat on the sofa. "He told me this wasn't over. That you were going to pay for what you did. That the truth was going to come out. And when it did, I would have to choose sides." I felt fear creep up my spine. "Did he say anything else?" Savannah nodded. "He said he was looking for someone. Someone who would change everything. Someone who would prove he was right. That night, at 11, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. It was Damon. His voice sounded different, less controlled, more desperate. Elias, he said. It wasn't Mr. Vance anymore. Just Elias. I know you're investigating. I know you're looking for answers. I didn't answer. But you won't find what you're looking for, he continued. Because I already found it. And when I bring the proof, you're going to have to accept the truth. You're going to have to accept what your family did. What you did. I gripped the phone. I didn't do anything. Damon laughed. A bitter laugh. That's what everyone says until the truth catches up with them. And he hung up. I stood there with the phone in my hand, feeling the net close in, feeling the past, that past I didn't know, about to explode in my face. And there was no way to stop it. Marcus Hayes arrived at 9 in the morning, sharp. He was a man in his 60s, immaculate gray suit, neatly trimmed mustache, hawk eyes that missed nothing. I had met him 15 years ago when I needed to investigate fraud at the company where I worked. He was discreet, efficient, and expensive, but he was worth every penny. Mr. Vance, he said, shaking my hand firmly. It's been years. I nodded. Too many. But I need your help again. I led him inside. Savannah was in the kitchen making coffee. When she saw Marcus, she looked at me curiously. Savannah, this is Marcus Hayes, private investigator. She nodded. The three of us sat at the table, and I began to tell him everything. I told him about Doman, about the wedding, about the attempted robbery, about the threats, about the insinuations that my mother had done something terrible 60 years ago. Marcus listened in silence, taking notes in a small notebook. When I finished, he closed the notebook. Have you investigated Damon already? No? He asked. I nodded. I have basic information. His birth certificate. His adoption. But I need more. I need to know who he really is. And I need to find his mother, Naomi Rivers. Marcus wrote the name down. Do you have any photos of her? I shook my head. I only know that she disappeared 40 years ago, and that before she left, she told Damon I was his father. Marcus stared at me. And are you? I held his gaze. I don't know, but I'm going to find out. Marcus left with the promise of having information in 3 days. 3 days that felt like 3 years. Savannah and I stayed in the apartment, waiting. She didn't go out. She was afraid of running into Damon. I didn't go out much either, only to buy what was necessary. And always attentive, always looking over my shoulder, because I knew Damon was out there, planning, waiting. On the third day, at 6 in the evening, Marcus knocked on the door. He carried a thick folder. He placed it on the table. I found things, he said. His tone was serious, grave. Things you won't like. I sat down. Savannah sat beside me. Tell me everything, I said. And Marcus began to speak. Damon Baruti, Marcus began, opening the folder. Born March 12, 1964. Mother, Naomi Rivers. Father, unknown. He spent the first 12 years of his life at St. Jude's Children's Home here in Atlanta. I nodded. I already knew that. But what you didn't know, Marcus continued, is that someone was paying for his stay at the orphanage. Someone was paying for his food, his clothes, his education. It wasn't the state. It was a private individual. I leaned forward. Who? Marcus pulled out a document, an old yellowed bank receipt. Loretta Vance, he said, and the world stopped. Your mother, Elias. Your mother paid for Damon for 12 years. I couldn't breathe. Savannah grabbed my hand, squeezing tight. That's not all, Marcus continued. In July 1976, when Damon turned 12, Your mother arranged for the Lozano family to adopt him, a rich, influential family. She paid them a considerable sum. I stood up, walked toward the window, looking at the street without really seeing it. Why, oh, I asked, more to myself than to Marcus. Why would my mother do that? Marcus closed the folder. There's only one reason why someone pays for a child in secret for 12 years and then arranges their adoption, because that child has family blood, because that child is a problem that needs to be handled discreetly. I turned around. Are you saying Damon is my son? Marcus looked at me. I'm saying your mother believed he was. Savannah stood up. But Dad was never with that woman. He never knew about any pregnancy. Marcus nodded. I know. And that's why I investigated further. He pulled out another folder. This one was thinner. 2 years ago, Damon hired 3 different investigators. He paid them to investigate Elias Carver Vance. Your life, your family, your properties, everything. He put photos on the table. Photos of me leaving my house, going into the bank, at the grocery store. He's been watching you for 2 years before he met Savannah. Before all of this. I looked at the photos and felt a chill. Why? Why was he investigating me if he didn't know me? Marcus took a deep breath. Because someone told him you were his father and he wanted revenge. Who told him? I asked. Marcus shook his head. That's the million-dollar question. Naomi Rivers disappeared 40 years ago. No one has seen her since. There are no records, no trace. It's as if she evaporated. I sat down again. But if she disappeared, who told Damon I was his father? Marcus pulled out another document. I found this in the orphanage records. A letter left for Damon to be given to him when he turned 18. He handed me a copy. I read it. Your father is Elias Carver Vance. He lives in Atlanta. He knew about you but didn't want you. I'm sorry, son. Your mother, Naomi. My hands trembled holding the paper. This is a lie, I said. I never knew about any pregnancy. Marcus nodded. I know. But Damon believes it. And that's why he hates you. That's why he planned all of this. I put the letter on the table. I need to find Naomi. She's the only one who can tell me the truth. Marcus frowned. Elias, she's been missing for 40 years. The chances of finding her... I interrupted him. I don't care. Pay whomever you have to pay. Search wherever you have to search. But find her. Marcus looked at me for a long moment. Then he nodded. Okay. But it's going to take time. And it's going to cost. I pulled out my checkbook. I don't care about the cost. Just find her. Marcus took the check. I'll call you when I have something. He stood up, left, and Savannah and I remained there in silence, processing everything we had just heard. Dad, Savannah said after a while, is it possible? Is it possible? Damon is your son? And you never knew? I ran my hands over my face. I don't know, honey. I dated some girls when I was young. Nothing serious. My mother was very strict. She wouldn't let me have formal girlfriends, but if someone got pregnant and didn't tell me... I didn't finish the sentence. Savannah came close to me and hugged me. It's not your fault. You didn't know. I hugged her tight. But if he is my son, I lost 60 years with him. And he hated me all that time for something I didn't do. Savannah pulled away, looking into my eyes. Then we're going to find the truth, and we're going to fix this. I nodded, but inside, I was afraid. Afraid of what we were going to find. Afraid that the truth would be worse than the lie. That night, I received a text message. Unknown number. I know you're investigating me. I know you're looking for Naomi. You won't find her, but I will. And when I do, you're going to have to accept what you did. It was Damon. I didn't reply, but I saved the message because it confirmed something for me. Damon was also looking for Naomi. And if he found her first, he could manipulate the truth. He could make her say whatever he wanted. I had to find her first. I had to hear her side of the story. I had to know what really happened 60 years ago. I called Marcus. I need you to speed up the search. Damon is looking for her too. Marcus sighed. I'll do what I can. And he hung up. 2 days later, Marcus called me. His voice sounded different, excited. I found her, he said. I jumped up. Where? In a small town, Birmingham, Alabama. She's living under a false name, Carol Solis, but it's her. I'm sure of it. I felt my heart pounding hard. She's alive? Yes, and lucid. She's 78 years old. She lives alone in a small house on the outskirts of town. I looked at Savannah. She was staring at me wide-eyed. I'm going there, I said. Send me the address. Marcus hesitated. Elias, are you sure? After 60 years, maybe she doesn't want to talk. I took a deep breath. She has to talk. It's the only way to know the truth. The only way to end this. Marcus sent me the address. I hung up. I looked at Savannah. I'm going to Birmingham. She nodded. I'm coming with you. I shook my head. It's dangerous. Damon might... She interrupted me. I'm coming with you, Dad. I'm not leaving you to go alone. And in her eyes, I saw determination, the same determination I felt. We packed that night. The next day, before dawn, we left for Birmingham, toward Naomi, toward the truth. We didn't make it to Birmingham. Halfway there, my phone rang. It was Miss Eleanor. Her voice sounded scared. Elias, that man is here. He's at your door. He's banging, yelling your name. I slammed on the brakes. Damon. Yes. And he looks bad. Real bad. Like he's, I don't know, desperate. I looked at Savannah. She had heard everything. Dad, don't go back. It's a trap. I shook my head. I have to go back. If I leave him like this, he'll do something worse. I turned the car around. Savannah protested the entire way back, but I didn't change my mind. We arrived at my building 2 hours later. Damon was there, sitting on the steps, his head in his hands. When he saw me, he jumped up. His eyes were red, his hair disheveled, his clothes wrinkled. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. Elias, he said. His voice was broken. I need to talk to you. I stopped a few feet away. Savannah stood behind me. Talk, I said. Damon looked at Savannah. Alone. I shook my head. Whatever you have to say, you say it in front of her. Damon clenched his jaw. Fine. He took a deep breath. I know you're investigating me. I know you found Naomi. I neither confirmed nor denied it. I just waited. You can't talk to her, Damon continued. You can't. His voice cracked. You can't destroy the only thing I have left. I stared at him. And what do you have left, Damon? A lie? A hatred based on something that maybe never happened? Damon shook his head. It's not a lie. She told me. My mother told me before she left. Then I need to hear it from her, Aimee said. I need her to look me in the eyes and tell me I knew. That I abandoned her. Because if that's a lie, Damon, you've wasted years hating the wrong man. Damon took a step toward me. And what if it's not a lie? What if she confirms you knew? I held his gaze. Then I'll accept the consequences. But I need to hear it from her. Damon laughed. A humorless laugh. You won't get to her. Because if you try to talk to her, if you try to convince her to change her story, I'll destroy Savannah. Those words froze me. Savannah took a step forward. What did you say? Damon looked at her, and in his eyes was something dark, dangerous. I have photos, Savannah. Compromising photos of you. Savannah turned pale. That's a lie. I never... Damon pulled out his phone and showed the screen. I looked, and I felt the rage explode inside me. They were manipulated, edited photos of Savannah. Photos that made her look like she was in situations she had never been in. Photos that would destroy her reputation if they came to light. You son of a gun, I said, walking toward him. Damon backed away. Careful, Elias. If you touch me, I'll post them. If you go to the police, I'll post them. If you talk to Naomi, I'll post them. I stopped. For the first time in this entire war, I felt fear. Real fear. Not for me, but for Savannah. Because Damon had a weapon I couldn't fight with evidence or lawyers. He had the power to destroy my daughter with a single click. What do you want? I asked. Damon took a deep breath. I want you to stop investigating. I want you to destroy the evidence you have against me, and I want you to give me half of your mother's inheritance. I shook my head. I won't do that. Damon smiled, a cold smile. Then Savannah pays. And believe me, those photos will be everywhere, at her job, on her social media, to the family, everywhere. Savannah started to cry. I looked at her, saw the fear in her eyes, and felt something I hadn't felt in years, impotence. I need time, I said. To think. Damon shook his head. There's no time. You decide now, or I post them now. I closed my eyes, thinking, looking for a way out. But there was none. Damon had me cornered. Fine, I finally said. I'll destroy the evidence. I'll leave you alone. But you leave Savannah out of this. Damon smiled. That depends on you. If you comply, she's safe. If not, he didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. And the inheritance? I asked. Damon shrugged. We'll discuss that later. First, I want to see you destroy the evidence. I nodded. Give me an hour. Damon looked at his watch. You have 1 hour, not a minute more. And he left, walking slowly, knowing he had won. Savannah collapsed into my arms. Dad, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I hugged her. It's not your fault. But inside, I was planning, because I wasn't going to destroy any evidence. I was going to find a way to destroy Damon. We went up to my apartment. Savannah was trembling. I sat her on the sofa. I made her tea. She didn't touch it. What are we going to do? She asked. I sat beside her. We're going to stick to the plan. We're going to Birmingham. We're going to talk to Naomi. And we're going to find out the truth. Savannah looked at me, scared. And the photos? I took her hand. They're fake. If he posts them, we sue him. We destroy him legally. Savannah shook her head. Dad, even if they're fake, the damage will be done. People will believe it. They'll comment. They'll, I interrupted her. I know, but I'm not going to let Damon win. Not like this. So Savannah looked at me for a long moment. Then she nodded. Okay, let's go to Birmingham. That night, as we prepared for the trip again, my phone rang. It was Damon. Time's up, he said. I looked at the clock. 2 hours had passed. I need more time, I said. Damon laughed. No, you've had enough. Send me a video of you destroying the evidence now. I took a deep breath. Damon, listen to me. I know you're angry. I know you think I abandoned you. But I need you to understand something. I never knew you existed. I never knew Naomi was pregnant. If I had known... Damon interrupted me. Liar. She told me the truth. She told me before she disappeared. She told me you knew? That you left her alone. That you never cared about me. I closed my eyes. Then let me talk to her. Let me hear her side of the story. No, Damon said. You won't manipulate her. You won't convince her to change her story. I opened my eyes. Change her story? Damon, what are you saying? Are you saying your mother lied? Silence. A long, heavy silence. Damon, I said slowly. Your mother is alive. More silence. Damon, answer me, Lau. Is your mother alive or dead? He took a deep breath. Well, she told me before she disappeared, before she left. That's what matters. I stood up. Before she disappeared or before she died? Damon didn't answer. Damon, if your mother is dead, then I can never hear her side of the story, and you know it. That's why you don't want me to look for her, because you're afraid of what I'll find. Damon hung up. And I knew. I knew Damon was lying. Or he was afraid of the truth. We're leaving now, I told Savannah. She nodded. We packed quickly. We left the building through the back exit. I didn't want Damon to see us. I drove all night. Savannah slept most of the way. I couldn't sleep. I was too tense, too anxious. We arrived in Birmingham at dawn. The town was small, quiet, beautiful. We found Naomi's house on the outskirts, a small white house with a well-kept garden. I parked in front of the house. I looked at Savannah. Ready? She nodded. We got out of the car, walked toward the door, rang the bell. We waited. I heard footsteps inside. The door opened, and there she was, Naomi Rivers, 78 years old. White hair, tired eyes, but alive, very much alive. She looked at me, and in her eyes, I saw recognition. Elias, she whispered. I nodded. Yes, it's me. She put a hand to her mouth and started to cry. I didn't think you would ever find me. After all this time. I took a step forward. I need to talk to you, Naomi. I need to know the truth about Damon, about what happened 60 years ago. She nodded slowly. I know. I knew you would come someday. I knew I would have to face what I did someday. She opened the door wider. Come in. We have a lot to talk about. We walked in, and I knew that in the next few minutes, my whole life was going to change, because the truth, after 60 years, was finally going to come to light. And there was no turning back. The house smelled of freshly brewed coffee and garden flowers. Naomi led us into a small, cozy living room. Old but well-maintained furniture. Photos on the walls. Photos of landscapes, of flowers, but none of people, none of family. We sat on the thaw. She sat across from us in a wooden chair. Her hands trembled as she clasped them in her lap. How did you find me? She asked. I looked at Savannah, then at Naomi. I hired the best investigator I know, Marcus Hayes. He found you in 2 weeks. Naomi nodded. I should have gone farther away, but I'm old now and tired. I didn't have the strength to keep running. I leaned forward. What were you running from, Naomi? She looked at me, and in her eyes, I saw 60 years of pain. The truth, she said. Naomi got up, went to the kitchen, returned with a tray, 3 cups of coffee, and homemade cookies. She sat down again, took her cup with trembling hands, drank a sip, and took a deep breath. We met in 1963, she began, at college. I was studying literature. You were studying accounting. I nodded. I vaguely remembered. We went out a few times. Nothing serious, or so I thought. Naomi smiled sadly. It was serious for me. I fell in love with you Elias, deeply. But you were distant, as if you were afraid to get too close. I looked down. My mother was very strict. She wouldn't let me have girlfriends. She said career first, and there would be time for that later. Naomi nodded. I know. That's why I never pushed it. And then I got pregnant, Naomi said, her voice cracking. It was in May 1963, after a party. You were drunk. I was too. Things happened, and after that night, you disappeared. You stopped going to college for 2 weeks. When you came back, you acted as if nothing had happened. I closed my eyes, trying to remember, but I couldn't. I didn't remember that night. I didn't remember Naomi in that context. When I found out I was pregnant, Naomi continued, I tried to tell you. I went to your house. I knocked on the door, and the one who opened it was your mother. I opened my eyes. My mother? Naomi nodded. Loretta Vance looked at me up and down. She asked me what I wanted. I told her I needed to talk to you. She asked me why, and I told her the truth. Naomi wiped a tear. Your mother took me inside, led me to the living room, sat me down and said, my son is not going to ruin his life for a girl like you. I felt the rage rising. What else did she tell you? Naomi took a deep breath. She offered me money. A lot of money for that time. She told me that if I left, if I disappeared and never came back, she would pay me everything necessary to raise the baby. But if I stayed and tried to talk to you, she would destroy my family. My father had a small store. He was in debt. She knew that. She told me she could make him lose everything. Savannah covered her mouth with her hands. Oh, my God. Naomi nodded. I was 19 years old. I was scared. Alone? And your mother was powerful. So I accepted. I took the money and left. Where did you go? I asked. Naomi looked out the window. To a small town near Birmingham. I rented a room. I had the baby alone. I named him Damon, after my grandfather. I felt something break inside me. And I never knew any of this? Naomi looked at me. No, your mother made sure of that. She lied to you. She told you I had left college, that I had moved with my family to another town, and you never asked. You never looked for me. Those words hurt because she was right. I hadn't looked for her, because I thought there was nothing serious between us, because I was young, because I was a coward. I'm sorry, I said. I should have. Naomi shook her head. It's not your fault. You didn't know. I should have insisted, but I was afraid. I raised Damon alone for 12 years, Naomi continued. I worked as a maid, as a laundress, whatever was necessary. The money your mother gave me ran out quickly, and she never helped me again until Damon turned 12. I leaned forward. What happened when he turned 12? Naomi closed her eyes. I was sick. Tuberculosis. The doctor said I didn't have much time, and I didn't know what would happen to Damon. I was desperate. She opened her eyes. And then your mother appeared again, like a ghost from the past. She knocked on my door, walked into my house, and made me another offer. I felt a chill run down my spine. What offer? Naomi took a deep breath. That I disappear from Damon's life forever. Your mother had arranged an adoption, Naomi said. A rich family. The Lozanos. They wanted a son, but couldn't have one. Your mother offered Damon to them. She told them he was the son of a distant cousin who had died. She paid them a considerable sum to adopt him. But there was one condition. I waited. That I disappear, Naomi continued. That I never return. That I never contact Damon. That I let him believe I had died. Savannah stood up. And you accepted? Naomi looked at her. Yes, I accepted, because I was dying, because I wanted my son to have a chance, to have an education, food, a future, everything I couldn't give him. I shook my head. But you took his mother away. You took the truth away. Naomi started to cry. I know. And it's something I have lived with every day for 40 years. But before I left, Naomi said through tears, before I disappeared, I told Damon something I shouldn't have told him. I felt my stomach tighten. What did you tell him? Naomi looked at me, eyes filled with guilt. I told him who his father was. I told him your name. I told him where you lived. And I lied to him. I felt as if I had been hit. You lied to him? How? Naomi covered her face with her hands. I told him you knew about him, that I had looked for you, that you had rejected me, that you didn't want us, that you had abandoned us. I felt like screaming. Why? Why did you lie to him? Naomi cried harder. Because I was angry, resentful, hurt, because I had carried everything alone for 12 years, and I needed someone else to blame. So I blamed you? I walked to the window, my hands clenched into fists, breathing hard, trying not to scream. Because of your lie, I said without turning around. My son hated me for 60 years. Because of your lie, he planned to destroy me. Because of your lie, I almost lost my daughter. Naomi sobbed behind me. I know, and I'm sorry. I've lived with that guilt every day, every night, knowing I destroyed his life with a lie. I turned around. And you never thought of telling him the truth? Of finding him? Of fixing what you broke? Naomi shook her head. I tried 20 years ago, when I recovered from tuberculosis. I went to look for him, but he was already an adult. He already hated me, and when he saw me, he slammed the door in my face. He told me that as far as he was concerned, I was dead, and that you were too. Savannah came close to me, taking my arm. Dad, we need Damon to hear this. He needs to know the truth. I looked at Naomi. Will you come back to Atlanta with me? Will you tell Damon the truth? Naomi looked up. Her face was wet with tears. Would he forgive me? I shook my head. I don't know, but he deserves to know the truth. He deserves to know that the man he hated his whole life never abandoned him, that he never knew of his existence. Naomi was silent for a long moment. Then she nodded. I'll go. I'll tell him the truth. It's the least I can do, after all the damage I caused. I nodded. Pack your things. We leave in an hour. Naomi got up and went to her room. Savannah hugged me. It's going to be okay, Dad. I didn't answer, because I wasn't sure anything would ever be okay again. While we waited for Naomi, my phone rang. It was Damon. I know where you are, he said. His voice was cold. I know you found my mother. I said nothing. It doesn't matter what she tells you, he continued. It doesn't matter what lies she makes up. I know the truth, and you're going to pay for what you did. I took a deep breath. Damon, your mother is coming with me to Atlanta, and she's going to tell you the truth, the whole truth. And then you'll know that all this time, you've been hating the wrong man. Damon laughed, a bitter laugh. I won't believe her. She already lied to me once. Why would I believe her now? I closed my eyes. Because she's your mother. And because she's going to look you in the eyes and tell you that she lied to you. That I never knew about you. that I never abandoned you. And then you'll have to decide if you want to keep living with hate or if you want to start living with the truth. Damon hung up, and I knew the final battle was about to begin. We arrived in Atlanta at nightfall. Naomi was quiet in the back seat. Savannah was driving. I looked out the window, thinking about everything that was about to happen. I called Victor Corona, my old friend. I asked him to come to my house. I called Amelia Moreland, the lawyer. I called Ms. Eleanor and Mr. Douglas. I needed witnesses. I needed people to see what was going to happen, because I knew Damon wouldn't accept the truth easily. We arrived at my apartment. Everyone was there, waiting. Victor hugged me. "Are you sure about this?" he asked. I nodded. "It's the only way." Amelia looked at Naomi. "Is that her?" I nodded again. "Naomi Rivers, Damon's mother." Everyone fell silent. Then I called Damon. "Come to my house now. There's someone who wants to talk to you." Damon arrived half an hour later. He walked in without knocking. When he saw everyone, he stopped. "What is this?" I stood up. "It's a witness to the truth, Damon. So you can't say later that we lied to you. So everyone hears the same thing." Damon looked around. Then his eyes landed on Naomi. He froze. "Mom." His voice came out as a whisper. Naomi stood up, trembling. "Hello, son." Damon took a step back. No, you're dead. You left 40 years ago." Naomi shook her head. "I didn't die, Damon. I disappeared because I was paid to, because I thought it was best for you." Damon shook his head. "No, I don't believe you. This is a trap. He paid you to say this." He pointed at me. Naomi walked toward him. "No one paid me, son. I came by my own will, because I need to tell you the truth. The truth I should have told you 40 years ago." Damon sat down slowly, as if his legs could no longer hold him. "Speak," he said. Naomi sat across from him and began to tell everything from the beginning. The pregnancy, Loretta's visit, the money, the threat, the exile, the 12 years raising him alone, Loretta's second visit, the adoption offer, her disappearance, and the lie. The lie she told him before leaving. That I knew about him, that I had rejected them, that I had abandoned them. Damon listened in silence, his fists clenched, his jaw tight. And when Naomi finished, when she said, "I lied to you, son. Elias never knew about you," I blamed him out of my own pain, out of my own rage, and that was unfair. Damon exploded. "Liar!" He jumped up. "You abandoned me, and now you come here to tell me it was all a lie?" Naomi cried. "Yes, son. It was all a lie, and I'm sorry. I'm more sorry than words can express." Damon walked toward me. "And you expect me to believe you? You expect me to accept that you knew nothing?" I stood up, looking him in the eyes. "I never knew Naomi was pregnant. My mother hid everything from me. She lied to me. She manipulated me, just like you. We are both victims of the same deception, Damon. We both lost 60 years because of my mother's lies." Damon shook his head, but I saw something in his eyes. Doubt. For the first time, I saw doubt. Why should I believe you? I pulled out the documents Marcus had found, the receipts of my mother's payments to Naomi, the adoption documents, everything. Because here is the proof. My mother paid for your silence. She paid for your adoption. She paid so the truth would never come out. And I never knew any of this until 2 weeks ago. Damon took the documents, read them once, twice. His hands were trembling. Damon sank into the chair, covering his face with his hands. 60 years, he whispered. 60 years hating the wrong man. I sat next to him. It wasn't your fault. You were lied to. You were manipulated, just like me. Damon looked at me, and there was no longer hate in his eyes. There was pain, deep pain. I lost 60 years with you. 60 years I'll never get back. I nodded. I lost them too, but we can start now, if you want to. Damon shook his head. I don't know if I can. I don't know if, after everything I did, after trying to destroy you, how you could forgive me. Damon wept. For the first time since I met him, Damon wept, and I put a hand on his shoulder. And we stayed like that, father and son, finally united. Not by love yet, no, but by the truth. Savannah came closer, sitting on Damon's other side. We're siblings, she said. Her voice trembled. Damon looked at her. I'm sorry, Savannah. I'm sorry I used you. I'm sorry I lied to you. I'm sorry. Savannah interrupted him. I know, and it hurts. It hurts a lot. But you were also a victim. And we both were. Damon nodded. Our marriage. Savannah shook her head. It's legally null and void. Immediately. Amelia is already preparing the papers. Amelia nodded from her chair. It's the right thing to do, given that you are half-siblings. Damon looked down. There was never, ever anything physical between us. Savannah nodded. I know, but it still can't continue like this. Damon accepted. I understand. The two of them sat in silence, processing, accepting, healing, slowly, very slowly. Damon took a deep breath. And the photos, he said, looking at Savannah. The photos I showed you were fake. I had them made by someone I know. I was never going to post them. I just wanted to scare you. I wanted Elias to stop investigating. Savannah closed her eyes. You made me believe my life was ruined. Damon lowered his head. I know, and I'm sorry. I deleted them. They're all gone. You can check my phone if you want. Savannah didn't take it. It doesn't matter. I don't trust you anymore. Damon nodded. I understand, and I don't expect you to. I just wanted you to know that threat no longer exists. Victor approached me. Elias, what are you going to do with the inheritance? I looked at Damon, then Savannah. I'm going to divide it. Half for Savannah, a quarter for Damon. Damon looked up. You don't have to... I interrupted him. Yes, I do. You are my son, even though I met you late, even though we lost 60 years. You carry my blood, and you have a right to something. Damon shook his head. After what I did, I don't deserve anything. I sat across from him. It's not about deserving. It's about doing the right thing. It's about beginning to repair what my mother destroyed. Damon looked at me for a long moment, then nodded. Thank you. A simple word, but charged with meaning. And the other quarter, I continued. It's for Naomi, so she can have a dignified old age, so she can have medical care, so she doesn't have to keep running. Naomi stood up. I can't accept. I interrupted her. Yes, you can. And you will, because you need it, and because it's the least I can do after everything you suffered because of my family. Naomi cried. Thank you, Elias, thank you. I nodded. But there's one condition. She looked at me. You're going to stay in Atlanta. You're going to be close to Damon. And you're going to try to rebuild your relationship with your son, if he wants to. I looked at Damon. He was looking at Naomi with pain, with anger, but also with something else, with need. I don't know if I can forgive you, he told Naomi. I don't know if I'll ever be able to call you Mom again, but I want to try. Naomi covered her mouth, sobbing. It's more than I deserve. Damon nodded. Yes, it is, but it's also what I need. And in that moment, something began to heal. Slow, painful, but real. That night, after everyone had left, I was alone with Savannah. We sat on the sofa in silence, processing everything that had happened. "I have a brother," Savannah said after a while. I nodded. "Yes. A brother you never knew you had." Savannah smiled sadly. "It's weird. I went from being married to him to being his sister." I took her hand. "I'm sorry, honey. I'm sorry. You had to go through this." She shook her head. "It's not your fault, Dad. None of this was your fault." We fell silent again. "Do you think we can be a normal family someday?" she asked. I thought about it. "I don't know, but we can try, day by day, step by step." Savannah rested her head on my shoulder. "I love you, Dad." I hugged her. "I love you too, honey. More than words can express." 3 months passed. Damon and I saw each other once a week. It wasn't easy. There were moments of tension, of awkward silences, of pain. But there were also moments of connection, of understanding, of something close to peace. Savannah and Damon built a sibling relationship. Strange, complicated, but real. Naomi moved into a small apartment near mine. Damon visited her, not every day, but he visited her, and that was enough for now. One day, Damon came to my house. He sat across from me. "I want you to know something," he said. I waited. "For 60 years, I hated you. I blamed you for everything bad in my life. And now I know I was wrong. And that hurts me more than anything else." I nodded. "I know." Damon took a deep breath. "I don't know if I'll ever be able to call you Dad. I don't know if I'll ever be able to love you the way a son loves his father. But I want to try." I felt the tears rise. That's enough for me. If you're listening to my story up to this point, thank you. Thank you for joining me on this painful but necessary journey. I leave you with a question I ask myself every night. Would you forgive someone who hurt you because of a lie that wasn't theirs? Could you embrace a son who hated you for 60 years for something you never did? It's not easy. None of this was easy. But here I am, at 81 years old, with a son I just met, with a daughter I almost lost, with truths that took 60 years to come out. And although the pain doesn't disappear, although the scars remain, there is one thing I learned. The truth always frees you, even when it hurts, even when it destroys. If my story touched your heart, leave me a comment. Tell me if you, too, have faced lies that changed your life. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, do it now. Every day, I share real stories of people like you and me. People who have survived. People who have healed. People who keep going despite the pain. Thank you for listening. Until the next story.